Let's talk about this Ben Simmons thing. It was thought he would play in Game 4.
In the hood, we call this a punk move. You know, when things are going good, yeah, I'm going to play in Game 4. Chuck said it. You could have played on Saturday, you could have played on Monday. Now that they lost, my back hurt. Well, if your back hurt, get some icy hot, I'll send it to you.
Well, I wish I could tell you when Ben Simmons was going to play basketball. As a reporter, I don't have that intel, but I can tell you more about that outfit that Ben Simmons is wearing.
Oh, nice.
Sources tell me, I'm going to reveal my source, it's Ben Simmons himself, that is 100% lamb.
Benjamin David Simmons and his basketball career is a complete roller coaster. Looking back at his LSU days, you immediately feel a deja vu moment. As teams and scouts were questioning his competitiveness, Simmons had displayed an apathy for defense, contact, and delivering winning plays in crucial stretches. But going even deeper, against Marquette, Simmons passed up 2 opportunities to drive for game-winning points, and in his first 5 games, Ben was shying away from putting the ball into the basket. Does this already remind you of something? It was clear that the ultimate goal for Benjamin was the NBA, while LSU was just a small step in the process. There were zero intentions for Ben to win anything during his college days. All he cared for was the platform to showcase his skills.
I know people who want to try and be my friend because I might be in the NBA, I might have a nice contract and be on TV and famous, but I'm not friends with anybody.
When Benjamin got to the NBA, he was basically a 6'10" point guard, and due to his size, he had a floor vision that most players at his position didn't have. He lasered passes to his open teammates on a regular basis. Ben's in-game decision-making was always on point. The size and the body combined with pure skill allowed Ben Simmons to do things that only a handful of NBA players could do. What I found truly interesting was that Ben Simmons, as a kid growing up in Australia, played Australian football as a ruckman, meaning that Benjamin had to be physical, also well coordinated, and it could explain how unfazed Ben was to play through contact at the very start of his basketball career. Ben did miss his first season due to a broken leg, but in his second year, Simmons was a big piece of the winning 76ers team. His versatility both offensively and defensively was just exceptional. Ben could easily defend from 1 through 5. One possession, Simmons switches on D'Angelo Russell and forces a tough shot. Couple of moments later, Ben is involved in different PLR actions, helps on every single drive, and then closes out a veteran Quincy Acey, absorbs a tough elbow, doesn't buy into Quincy's pump fake, and forces a miss. Exactly same thing with Ben's offensive game, taking the ball up to the floor, a handoff, zigzagging to the opposite side of the court, and fighting for space in the paint but failing to post up Quincy, and finally beating his man with quickness. Overall, Ben was such a tough matchup. If he was defended by smaller guards, he could straight up bully them into submission. If he was defended by bigger wings, he could beat them with pace. To top that, Ben's size allowed to oversee his opponents and dish out passes to tight spaces, and this young and confident version of Ben Simmons exploited every opportunity of defenses giving him area to burst into a drive. You could call this space a launching pad, as Ben used the distance between himself and the defender to explode towards the rim. Ben's rookie season was truly historic. Simmons became the second rookie in NBA history to record 1,200 plus points, 600 plus rebounds, and 600 plus assists. Benjamin also joined Michael Jordan and LeBron James as the only players who have recorded 1,200 plus points, 600 plus rebounds, 50 plus steals, and 50 plus blocks in one season, and he was the first rookie to do it. Ben's 12 triple-doubles is second all-time amongst rookies. Big O recorded 26. Simmons also missed just a single game in his debut season, and naturally, people were debating at the time whether Ben Simmons is the best rookie of all time. Ben went on to win the Rookie of the Year award, but more importantly, Ben Simmons connected with Joel Embiid almost perfectly. Their PNR actions resulted with different outcomes, either Joel popped to the three-point line or rolled to the basket, Ben always found him. In general, the 2017-18 76ers starting lineup was one of the best in the league. Among the 48 lineups that played at least 100 minutes that season, the Sixers starters ranked 5th both offensively and defensively. On top of that, this Sixers starting lineup held opponents to an effective field goal percentage of just 46%. The lowest opponent mark amongst the 48 group lineup, just another example how beneficial it was for the Sixers to have a 6'10" point guard. I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, Benjamin's biggest weakness that partially caused his mental implosion. Ben is truly a unique player, not only because of his size and skill set, but unique in the sense that Ben shoots the ball with his left hand and does everything else with his right hand. This meant that Ben Simmons felt uncomfortable attempting any kind of mid-range looks. The Celtics were the first team to expose Ben's Achilles heel. Well, they were not the first team to sag off of Simmons, and I will expand on that in a couple of moments. So Ben would opt to finish close-range shots with his right hand, while with the mid-range jump shots he used his left. But the problem is, it still looked unnatural. Benjamin never seemed to be comfortable with his jump shot. Firstly, Ben has a late release. You could notice specifically in this turnaround shot that there's a slight push whenever he's at the peak of releasing the ball. Also, Simmons doesn't seem to go into a strong base before his jump shots, meaning that his feet and legs are always wobbling and going in different directions. Sometimes he tippy-toes into a jump shot, so he has to gather all the power to release the ball from his arms. Meanwhile, if you look at any good shooter, whether it's a catch and shoot or a pull-up jump shot, they place their legs accordingly. They go strong with their base and they always look in control even before catching the ball. Obviously, players like Kyle Korver or Ray Allen worked endlessly to perfect the rhythm of their shooting mechanics. If any of you played any kind of basketball, whether it's in the streets or middle school, you know that you need to gather the power for your jump shot from your whole body, starting with your feet and legs. And the arms are mostly there to guide the ball to the basket. Of course, everything has to be in one fluid motion, so Ben Simmons oftenly was and is short on most of his shots because his lower body doesn't assist his jump shot. So with Benjamin's legs not allowing him to go into any kind of rhythm while shooting the ball, his upper body, meaning his hands and form, was utterly broken. He twisted into a release and it looked disgusting, and since Benjamin had a similarly looking shot in high school, it meant that the broken mechanics are in his muscle memory, so changing or tweaking his jump shot was incredibly difficult. Now, I'm not sure why he simply didn't switch to attempting shots with his right, because Ben looked way more fluid in shooting free throws with his right hand, and I've seen players changing their shooting hand and actually improving their percentages. Great example is Mason Plumlee. The guy went from being the worst free throw shooter in the league, not even reaching 40%, to switching his hand and then shooting free throws at 60%. Anyways, at least for a while Benjamin didn't need a jump shot, but his biggest flaw came to haunt him eventually. The start of 2018 playoffs and Simmons was shining in the brightest spotlight. Simmons recorded first playoff triple-double for a rookie since Magic Johnson in 1980. He was a rebound shy of a triple-double in Game 1 against Miami, flirted with a triple-double in Game 2 and 3, and in Game 4 he finally recorded a triple-double, while helping the Sixers to overcome Dwayne Wade's heat. In the second round against the Boston Celtics, the Celtics were missing Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, and Jaylen Brown, who returned in the second game of the series. Boston were led by another rookie, Jason Tatum, who was also having a historic rookie campaign. So after Ben had a successful Game 1, in the second game the Celtics changed their defensive approach towards Ben Simmons.
We know he's looking to pass first. He got a lot of great shooters around him. He got the right people around him. So we just trying to limit that and take that away, take his shooters away, and make him score the ball. And, not saying that he can't score, but he wants to pass. And we take that away. I feel like we feel pretty good about it.
No doubt this was the worst game Benjamin Simmons had in his 1 year in the NBA. Boston exposed Ben's weaknesses in the biggest stage. Not only that he couldn't shoot the ball, but he couldn't finish with his left hand around the rim. Only 4 field goals attempted by Benjamin in the second game, and Boston's idea of putting a mobile big Al Horford who can both defend on the block and hustle to the transition defense stopped Simmons from getting any easy buckets. Ben's reluctance to shoot left-handed caused him to try and finish with his right hand, and the shot looked ridiculously bad, while Ben's incapability to play back to the basket and lack of post moves meant that posting up Al Horford was impossible, and even against smaller defenders, Ben struggled to get to the basket. And when you take away Ben's drive and kick game, suddenly Simmons doesn't even get involved in any kind of half-court action late in the game, and this was critical. In the series against the Boston Celtics, Ben Simmons was a big net negative whenever he was on the floor for the Sixers, almost a 51-point swing. Benjamin just didn't have any kind of positive impact in the second round of the playoffs. And it wasn't just Boston's good defense. Some plays were self-inflicted by Ben Simmons, like not attempting a wide open free throw line look. Most typical guards would take that shot without even a blink, but not Benjamin. The Sixers did avoid getting swept, but series continued in Boston, and it was pretty much over for the 76ers. After the horrific second round, Ben Simmons admitted that he has much learning and development to do. After all, it was his first professional season. With the off-season beginning, we started seeing Ben's workout videos, specifically him grinding on his jump shot, and ever since his first off-season, every single summer Benjamin's workout clips just went viral, and people were speculating and hyping up that finally Ben will have a reliable jump shot. What followed next was disappointment. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ben improved significantly in his sophomore year. He received his first All-Star selection and it showed pure dominance in some games, but NBA is a copycat league. More and more teams were applying the leave him open dynamic on Benjamin Simmons. The time LeBron James disrespected disrespected Simmons, the clips of it went viral, and I mean, why the hell do you need to pick up a player on the perimeter if he's afraid to shoot? So instead of giving Ben enough space to blow by you, LBJ was all the way on the boxed area and was ready to meet Ben at the rim. Benjamin in open court offense was godlike, while Benjamin in half court offense was an innocent spooked sheep. There was visible buzz surrounding Ben's jump shot, and it increased with each season. The fans were oozing whenever Ben had the ball wide open near the three-point line, asking Simmons to take that shot. The analysts were talking about it, stating that the Sixers are one jump shot away from winning a chip, so everyone understood that Ben Simmons is a great player, but he needed to add a jump shot to his offensive arsenal. And here's some interesting stats. Comparing Benjamin's first two healthy seasons, Ben took less mid-range looks in his second year. Mid-range shot is deemed to be a shot outside of the free throw line, but Ben also took less close-range shots, a shot from the inside of the boxed area. The only field goal zone that saw an increase in numbers was finishing around the rim, layups or dunks. So my theory is Benjamin's mental state. The guy clearly felt unconfident in attempting any kind of a jump shot. Like Jesus Christ, in senior year of high school, Simmons attempted 51 threes in 28 games on 29% shooting. While in his 6 seasons and 332 played games in the NBA, Ben attempted 36 three-pointers and capitalized only 5 of them. And I feel that the more people talked about his jump shot, the more it got into Benjamin's head. I will expand on Ben's mental state and how it got worse after his back injury later in the video. 76ers few months into 2018-19 season made a trade for Jimmy Butler, automatically putting them into a title contention. But here's the problem. For the entire year, Ben Simmons had the ball in his hands, and 1 month into Jimmy being in Philadelphia, he speaks out to Brett Brown on offensive struggles. Now, the media reported as Jimmy aggressively challenging Brett Brown, but it was simply Jimmy voicing out his concerns to his head coach, how a handful of Sixers players, including Jimmy, felt about their offense. So the postseason comes and Brown decides to tweak their offensive approach by giving the ball to Jimmy Butler instead of Ben Simmons. So Ben's averages in the playoffs compared to his first season went down. Fewer points, fewer field goal attempts, free throws, assists. He was being played way more off ball, and Jimmy was their primary ball handler. Ben's first round game against the Nets was a huge struggle, specifically on the free throw line, and Ben heard an earful from the Sixers fans for having a mediocre performance.
That's problematic for this team, I think, this 60% free throw shooting.
In the quarter, as Simmons misses again, and without Jimmy Butler on the floor right now.
The Sixers dropped Game 1 to an underdog Brooklyn Nets. In the second game, the whole 76ers team, including Benjamin Simmons, played way better. In Game 3, Ben achieved a playoffs personal career high in points as he was dominating in Brooklyn. After the first round, or even after these 2 games, Ben Simmons was back in being essentially a role player. Philadelphia ran their offense through Jimmy and Joel Embiid, as Ben averaged 11, 7, and 5 against the Raptors, as the Sixers were knocked out by Kawhi's legendary game winner.
Is this the dagger?
In the offseason, the Philadelphia 76ers resigned Tobias Harris to a 5-year $180 million deal, as they were letting Jimmy Butler go. So people tend to believe that it was either Ben Simmons or Jimmy Butler, and Philadelphia's front office chose Ben. I think it's a bit of both. They offered Jimmy's money to Tobias Harris, thinking that choosing Jimmy would jeopardize Ben's development. Also, there was a lot of bullshit going on inside Philadelphia's team, like for example, Ben Simmons was allowed to miss a game, quote, due to a stomach virus, but turns out Benjamin was partying with Kendall Jenner in Miami before the game against Orlando Magic. And we all know that that kind of bullshit doesn't sit well with Jimmy.
Tobias Harris over me?
In the 2019-20 season, Ben Simmons was selected to All-Defensive First Team, All-NBA Third Team, and he finished 4th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, and this is what most NBA fans don't understand. Prime Ben Simmons could hold up against Domantas Sabonis back to the basket using his physicality and maneuver on the perimeter defending flashy guards like James Harden. Ben used his length cautiously, had wonderful hands, and could pickpocket any NBA player. Prime Ben Simmons defensively made a huge difference, so no, he wasn't in the NBA just because he had a pretty face or because he was 7 feet tall, even though he actually wasn't. Benjamin could make defensive plays out of thin air and turn that defensive play into easy points, either scoring by himself or assisting his teammates, in which Ben was always a willing passer. Offensively, there was an extra layer of decisiveness in Ben's driving and finishing. He attacked the rim more often and finished around the basket efficiently, although, differently from previous years, before the 2019-20 season, Brett Brown sat down with Ben and his parents and said, listen, we need you to shoot threes, to space the floor and help the team. If you don't, I'm going to bench you. And Sixers front office and some of the ownership agreed and wanted Brett Brown to bench Ben if he doesn't shoot threes, so more pressure for Benjamin, who was already afraid to take any jump shot. Halfway through the season, during the All-Star game, Benjamin Simmons, after a put-back dunk, takes a tumble and falls to the ground. It didn't seem serious, but he missed the next game against the Nets and returned to the Sixers lineup after 5 days against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now against the Bucks, Benjamin drives, scores the basket, and is seen to be lingering, and something was visibly not okay.
And Ben Simmons looked like he is in a little bit of discomfort right now. He was shaken up on that last sequence, and he's going to be looked at by the team's athletic training staff going into the tunnel.
The reports disclosed that Ben took a hard fall in Milwaukee and he was lying on his back vomiting from pain. Now here's the thing about back injuries. Your back muscles helps you to move your body, bend over, rotate, and stand up straight. Of course, they help you to run and move sideways. The back is the backbone of your body, and back injuries, almost in every single case, are not fully treatable. You will basically have issues with your back for the rest of your life, so you should already understand how a player who uses his body strength, athleticism, and is heavily dependent on his natural abilities to play basketball at a high level could suffer from suddenly losing his speed or verticality. It would be pain in the ass for a player like Luka Doncic to have back pains, but I feel specifically with Ben's case. A player that doesn't have an outside presence, a player that can only do things with sheer power and tenacity. Also taking a note Benjamin's mental side of things, I just think that people underestimate the impact that this back injury had in Benjamin's career. After missing 8 games and the season being cancelled due to COVID, Ben came back to the start of the bubble, played a couple of games, and missed the end of the regular season, including the playoffs. The Sixers had a disappointing season, both with and without Simmons. They finished as a 6th seed, matched up against the Boston Celtics, and got swept in the first round. In the summer, Philadelphia brought in Doc Rivers as their new head coach. In the 2020-21 season, Simmons was again named to All-NBA Defensive First Team, received an All-Star selection, and finished second behind Rudy Gobert in Defensive Player of the Year voting. But more importantly, the Philadelphia 76ers finished as the first seed in Eastern Conference, as finally the Sixers were playing as a championship team. But then, the playoffs came. First round of 2021 playoffs, and Ben Simmons is breaking every single free throw against the Wizards. The sample size is small, but Ben was basically breaking records with how bad he was on the free throw line. Simmons was a point guard between your usual suspects who were big men and hated shooting free throws, so the Wizards were hacking Ben Simmons. They intentionally fouled Ben to secure a win in the Game 4, and Doc Rivers after the game defended Benjamin, stating that he's not going to bench him and that Simmons does so many good things.
Ben is not a 40-point guy. It's not what he does. He does other things for your team. And I just don't understand why that's not sinking in our city. You know, everybody on the team doesn't have to be a scorer to help the team. Ben scores, but Ben creates scoring for us. That's what he does. So if I'm Ben at some point, I'd get tired of it.
Interestingly enough, Scott Brooks and the Wizards back in 2017 were also hacking Ben Simmons and managed to erase a double-digit lead. After eliminating the Wizards in Game 5 in the second round, the Sixers faced Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young, and the Hawks implemented Washington's idea to hack Ben Simmons in their first game, and this was crazy. The Hawks were securing their lead by fouling Philadelphia's main point guard. Meanwhile, the Sixers couldn't get into any kind of offensive run to try and tie the score, so Doc Rivers were basically counting on Benjamin's free throws to get him back into the game, because 6 points in today's basketball is nothing. And the thing is, 76ers even couldn't get into out of a timeout set play as Atlanta's players were immediately hacking Ben, so Doc Rivers was eating up his own words on the decision to not bench Benjamin in crucial stretches of the game. I wouldn't say that Doc was clueless on what's happening. In my opinion, Rivers was betting on Benjamin to make the free throws and he was showing support for one of his leaders. But what entangled from that one decision to not take out Ben out of the game was that Benjamin was mentally drowning with each walk to the free throw line. Still to this day, I genuinely believe that Doc Rivers failed to read Benjamin's body language, I'm not sure how, and Doc was setting up Ben Simmons for failure. I know that Benjamin is a superstar player and he should be knocking down free throws, but by this moment everyone talked about Benjamin's game not being suited for the playoffs. Everyone knew his troubles, and I do understand as a coach you don't want to change the way you play during the whole year, and usually coaches want to stick to their game plan, but just look at Ben's field goal attempts in the 4th period of playoff games. Not making any kind of adjustments when your second guy behind Embiid not only isn't productive but straight up is damaging your team's performance. Doc Rivers was either inept or afraid to make any changes in crucial stretches in the playoffs, as Sixers blew an 80-point lead in Game 4 and a 26-point lead in Game 5. And I already think you know what happened next for Benjamin Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers.
Simmons, they cleared out for him. Tapping his way in. Spins on Gallinari. Gives it up. Oh, he was right there. And a foul as Thibault goes to the basket. Boy, Simmons.
But that's when you know that
the game is in your head. That's a dunk for Ben Simmons right there. You got it, and I know you got it desirable, you got the free throws, but Ben Simmons, you got to shoot that shot.
Pearson made him shoot that shot a little hard. 2.5 to go. Long three on its way. Trae Young, ice cold, delivers a three.
I don't know how to say it, but I thought the turning point was just, we had an open shot, and we made one free throw, and we missed the other, and then they came down and scored, and we didn't get a good possession.
Doc, do you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to become?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now.
What became of Benjamin Simmons after the atrocious playoffs performance? Ben was a laughingstock.
Not everyone knows this, but Ben Simmons has been building orphanages like this one completely out of his playoff bricks.
And this was pretty much the end of Ben Simmons that we knew. He managed to play the best regular season in his career, accompanied with the worst postseason you can imagine for an all-star player. And in the month of September, Ben requested a trade. In the process, Ben Simmons refused to not only play but physically participate in any kind of Sixers action. The only time he showed up to training, he got kicked out by Doc Rivers for not putting any effort. Also, Ben was working with mental health professionals through the NBA Players Association, but he didn't communicate his progress with the Philadelphia organization. So Benjamin missed NBA games due to personal mental issues. Right before the trade deadline, Ben Simmons alongside Seth Curry and Andre Drummond with 2 first-round picks were sent to Brooklyn in exchange of James Harden. Simmons disclosed that there's no date for his return as he missed the whole season, including the playoffs. His debut came in 2022-23 season against the Pelicans and Zion Williamson. Now, this was Zion's first game in 533 days, that's a bit less than 1.5 years, but Zion scored 25 points on a 50% shooting. Meanwhile, Benjamin, who missed 1 year of basketball, scored 4 points. And this was exactly what we saw from Benjamin Simmons in this season. He was not able to do any kind of scoring. He was essentially a 6'10" player who makes $35 million a year and can only pass the ball. There was no aggressiveness or desire to take it upon himself and destroy everyone who tries to block his way to the rim. With some plays, it was pretty ridiculous how Benjamin couldn't finish around the basket. Even right here, he has a smaller Ty Jerome and doesn't even try to back his way to the hole. It was shocking how a non-factor Ben was offensively. I mean, I do understand that Brooklyn had KD and Kyrie Irving and they got all the touches, but Simmons attempted 5.5 field goals per game. Not sure was it his mental issues or back pains or even both. Ben missed half of the season. The Nets surprisingly finished as a 7th seed, and Ben also missed the playoffs. In the most recent season, Benjamin played only 15 games. To be honest, the Nets looked fun with Benjamin, a lot of transition offense with quick behind the arc shots, a fun up-tempo style where Ben acted as a distributor in their lineup, but it still doesn't change the fact that Benjamin Simmons has one of the worst contracts in the league, and he's a point guard that can't be playing on any contending team. His game didn't change to any positive side. He just lost his speed, velocity, aggressiveness, and any desire to take the matter in his own hands, even in the regular season. Teams were still treating Ben as a janitor on the perimeter. No one really even paid any attention that Ben is on the court, and what I don't get is that yes, Ben had mental problems, I acknowledge that, but Ben tries to deflect his jump shot issue, and he treats it as a narrative. When JJ Redick asked Benjamin about not shooting threes, Ben got defensive, saying that, oh, I do other things, I'm a great playmaker, I don't need to be Steph Curry. No one asked Ben Simmons to be lights out from the perimeter. The fans, the coaches, the media asked Ben Simmons to at least attempt one long-range shot. Not make, but at least try taking those 3-point looks. After just 15 games, Ben underwent a successful lower back procedure, and Brooklyn Nets shut down Benjamin Simmons for the remainder of the season. And that's the exact legacy Ben Simmons is leaving behind himself. He was a wonderful player when he was healthy, but LSU basketball community dislikes him, as the Philadelphia 76ers fanbase hates him.